Hello, my name is George Attallah, and my topic is the use of artificial intelligence in hiring. AI recruitment systems are transforming how companies select candidates, from automated resume screening to video interview analysis. In this presentation, I will explore how these systems work, why they matter, and the ethical consequences that come with handing over hiring power to machines. AI has fundamentally changed the hiring process. Many companies now use supervised machine learning, where they label past hires as good or bad employees. Those historical evaluations, performance reviews, promotions, terminations, are becoming the training data that teaches models what a good hire looks like. The problem is, if past evaluations contain bias, which they likely do, the system simply learns to replicate that bias, and it's thereby propagated forward without knowledge or reason for that bias to be moving. So, even though the intent is efficiency, the outcome we're seeing is the quiet reinforcement of discrimination, which is embedded in the historical data that we're providing these systems. Now the question, why is it relevant to us? This is directly relevant to all of us in college because we're the next generation entering this job market, which has AI filtering built into the job applicant process. Applicants today are no longer submitting resumes that reflect who they truly are, but are instead submitting AI-generated, quote-unquote, best fit resumes, designed to trick or satisfy algorithmic screeners. It's become a digital cat and mouse game, humans writing for machines, not for people. And since companies aren't required to disclose when AI is used in the hiring process, most applicants don't even know when they're being evaluated by one. This lack of transparency affects fairness, trust, and opportunity for many people. Of course, there's also the issue of inherent bias being adopted through the data sets that these systems are evaluating, and this bias being pushed onto individuals of minority groups or just people based on factors that they can't control for biases that companies have had historically. As one recruiter explained in a Bloomberg report, the only job your resume has is to be comprehensible to the software or robot that's reading it, because that robot decides whether a human ever sees it. This quote sums up the strange inversion we're witnessing. Humans are now optimizing themselves to please algorithms, as opposed to the opposite. And frankly, this can be problematic for the previously discussed issue of people submitting disingenuous resumes generated by artificial intelligence with the intent of getting past these AI screenings. But also, it's important to note that these AI systems often have a difficult time reading some resumes that are generated or created with the intent of a human reading them. So certain stylistic choices could result in people getting denied positions that they were rightfully good candidates for. And this is kind of where it comes to a shift in the hiring process from the applicant perspective, because you're no longer trying to submit a resume that stands out visually or can show a little bit of your personality. Your resume is now just a list of reasons that they should hire you, as opposed to a reflection of who you are and why you'd be a good candidate for the role. And this is reflected in how these processes are playing out. So the intended consequences of using AI in hiring are pretty straightforward. Faster and more objective recruitment, trying to eliminate bias, and lower hiring costs for companies, less manual labor. The unintended consequences are where things get more complicated. To bypass AI screening, many candidates are relying on AI-generated resumes. We've built a loop, AI evaluating AI. Humans are kind of caught in the middle of this. And we're seeing that when bias, which is going to be inevitable in data, starts to be adopted by these AI systems, we're seeing bias in the hiring outcomes as a result of that. It's almost impossible to assign blame, which is another pretty big problem. Who's responsible? The hiring company, the contractor, the person who deploys the tool, the developers who wrote the code, or the data that shaped it. This diffusion of responsibility is one of the most pressing issues, and honestly raises ultimately bigger questions in the realm of artificial intelligence, both in and outside of hiring, particularly because it's almost impossible to assign this blame, but it must be assigned in order for things to change. Someone must take the butt of this, of the blunt of the blame, in order for them to make a change in how these systems are created and optimized. Data-driven evaluations are causing this game the system effect, as opposed to try to be the best applicant for the role. So AI, of course, has benefits and risks. And in hiring, some of those benefits are increased efficiency in the screening of applicants. And this is, of course, inherent to the nature of a computer. Reduction in human error and fatigue. And if properly audited, we could have enhanced diversity by counteracting individual prejudice, but this is going to be heavily reliant on peer review and transparent systems, which we don't have the level we need quite yet of. Some of the cons of this are the amplification of bias, which can be hidden in data sets. And we get rid of human empathy from decision making and create an obscure accountability, where you must have had certain experience and use certain keywords on your resume and in your application process in order to be even considered, and you no longer have the benefit of the doubt that a human can give to you, in knowing that you may have the potential to do the job well and may even be a better applicant than someone who has more experience or better keywords on their resume. The artificial intelligence doesn't have that type of discretion. And finally, applicants never learn why they were rejected, which is problematic for many reasons, but they don't even get to know whether or not a human ever saw their resume. So often this creates a divide between very adamant applicants and companies that don't have the time to review their resumes. So in short, efficiency is being gained, but at the cost of transparency and fair hiring. So what does the future hold? I believe that the future of AI recruitment is heading towards an age of accountability in the most optimistic sense. So governments and organizations are beginning to require transparency reports, fairness testing, and bias audits for AI hiring tools. There's also methods like explainable AI, which aim to reveal the reasoning behind algorithmic decisions, and these show both employers and applicants why a system might have made its choice. If this is managed responsibly, AI could evolve from a black box into an actual tool that supports human judgment as opposed to replacing it. And that's really what's at the precipice of this all. We don't want to replace human judgment in the hiring process, because work in the human sense is a human-to-human interaction. Customer, company, worker, co-worker, worker-boss, it's all human-to-human ideally, and this human-to-human interaction should be present in the hiring process as well. Finally, the scenario I was assigned was the following. Jorge, the head of human resources, is considering using an AI tool to screen job candidates. He's aware that the system may have built-in bias against certain groups, but he's tempted by the promise of faster and cheaper hiring. The dilemma is it ethical for Jorge to adopt the tool, knowing that it may discriminate just because it offers efficiency? Of course, this is the central ethical question, which I'll explore further in the midterm and final reports. This presentation has taken from all of the following references. These sources highlight why AI in hiring isn't just a technical issue, but a societal and moral one. Thank you for watching.